I had a comment in the last video, or a question, about asking me to elaborate a little bit more on the cause and effect of taking the club too far to the inside on the backswing. A lot of people struggle with this. You may struggle with this, and it can be the root cause of a lot of issues in your golf swing. I'm heading into the studio right now to set up for my day. I have a bunch of lessons, but I have a few minutes and I want to film. Let's get to work. My goal with this channel is to build a community of golfers that simply want to get better. And I absolutely appreciate all the comments in the last video about transforming your over-the-top move. If you haven't watched that video, I'll put a link below. But the one thing that I will say, and this is the thing that I've always struggled with, I've been teaching for almost 25 years now, and I've always wanted to do a YouTube channel. I've always wanted to do this and put information, things I've learned over the years out there. But the one thing I've always struggled with is the fact that I don't know you, the person that's watching this video right now. I don't know your golf swing. I don't know your tendencies. I don't know your personality. I don't know your physical limitations. I don't truly know your personal cause and effects. So you have to take every video out there on the internet, I don't want to say with a grain of salt. It's a chance to learn. It's a chance to educate yourself. But those certain drills and tips and pieces of the puzzle may not necessarily be the things that are causing the issues in your swing. So I want to make sure everybody out there understands it. And I'm sure at this point, a lot of people do. But there is a lot of trying. There's a lot of trial and error. And that's part of the journey. And I'm glad a lot of the things that I talked about in that last video resonated. And I'm hoping as I go forward creating these videos that there's a lot more of these things that are going to resonate with you. So again, I appreciate all of the comments. Like I said, my goal is to build a community of golfers that are all like-minded and they want to get better. That's why you're watching this video. But I do want to highlight one particular comment, and there was a question in there as it related to one of the pieces of the puzzle in the last video, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit deeper on that one singular cause and effect. So this is from Jonathan, and he wrote, I just realized you are TJ from the Big Break 4. That is true. I can't believe it's 20 years ago now on the Golf Channel.
No, we got a chance at par.
I'm going to make it.
Read it correctly.
Outside right edge, yeah. A little uphill.
It's in my hands again.
Yeah. I also did a whole bunch of other things with the Golf Channel, including I was a co-host on a travel show, Golf of Style, which was awesome. Went to Ireland, filmed a bunch over there. And I've done other instructional things as well. So I appreciate you remembering me. He says, I have a question. Can you elaborate a bit more on getting the club stuck too far inside on the takeaway? I struggle with this, and for the life of me, I cannot correct it. Also, I'd be interested in some remote lessons. Thanks for reading, John from South Carolina. So what John is referring to is, I made mention in the last video about how your toe to heel balance at address can affect the initial move off of the golf ball. There are a lot of golfers out there that struggle with taking the club too far to the inside. Let me establish something here. None of this has to be perfect. Everything just has to match up to your individual pieces. So there are some players that take the club and get to this point here where the club head is perfectly in line with the hands. There are some elite players that get the club head slightly inside the hands, and there's some elite players that get the club head outside the hands, closer to the target line. There is a window that you can be in and be very successful. There is also a window you can be in where you have to create a lot of compensations, a lot of athletic compensations to basically get yourself unstuck from being too far to the inside. So I'm going to talk about one Just one cause and effect piece that I see that a lot of people struggle with, and it is actually the reason why they can't stop coming from the inside. I'm sure a lot of you that clicked on this video basically drive themselves bananas, because you sit here and you go waggle, oh good, waggle, good, waggle, good. And then when you actually go to hit the ball, the club goes way back inside. There's other pieces to that as well. But one of the significant pieces of the puzzle is really your setup. So if you set up to the golf ball and you are too far out on your toes, so you can see on the screen right now I am very balanced toe to heel. I am now on my toes. I am now on my heels. Now, obviously the golf ball, when you set up to it, is on this side. So we have this natural tendency to want to go this way. I also understand not everybody has access to a pressure mat to be able to see this. I would highly encourage you, find an instructor that has a pressure mat. There are also some relatively inexpensive consumer devices that you can buy that measures this. And I'll put a link down below to one of the devices that, if you're interested, you can pick it up. But it does the same thing that my pressure mat does in here. So in my address position, I want to be balanced. So I want my tail, I want my rear end to be pretty much over my heel. If I start to get too on my toes, most likely I'm going to start to pull my pelvis in a little bit too much at address. Now, where this starts to influence the takeaway, if I'm too much on my toes, I'm going to have to pull the club inside to counterbalance myself. And I used an analogy in the last video, the over-the-top video, about walking on a tightrope. So if I am walking on a tightrope, my upper body goes one way, my lower body goes the other way. Why? To keep your center of mass over that tiny little line. We are always in a flow of balance. We're always trying to, as humans, as athletes, as individuals, we're trying to always stay balanced. And we're going to do whatever we possibly can to stay balanced. So if I am too much on my toes at address, I can't bring the club into that position, that slot position, that window that I was talking about. You have to. So if I'm on my toes, I have to throw the club inside in order to counterbalance me being on my toes. And then that leads to a whole bunch of other things. Again, click the link below to the last video so you can see what that does and how that creates more of an over-the-top move as a result in a lot of ways to basically stay balanced. So there's a lot of players that I work with that once we establish a better setup position where we're more balanced toe to heel at address, they can now control the backswing much, much, much easier because there's absolutely no counterbalancing going on. I mean, there's still obviously some counterbalancing, but there's no extreme counterbalancing going on where that particular player has to pull the club inside so they just don't fall on their face, essentially. And I'm going to stress, there are other reasons for a club to get too far inside. I'm not going to get into that today. Subscribe though, because I will get into that in the future. But the toe to heel balance at address in your setup is one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle. And quite frankly, it's one of those unseen cause and effects. Because quite frankly, if I stand up to this golf ball and I go on my toes, it doesn't look that bad, right? Visually. If I go too much on my heels, it doesn't look that bad visually. So it's not a very obvious thing. What is obvious is this: the club getting wrapped around the body, and then it has to get unstuck or it gets too far from the inside on the way down. So I have a good drill. It's a simple drill. It's a drill that honestly, you don't need a pressure mat to work on, but all I would love for you to do is, you can do this in the living room, get into your setup position. Again, you're bending from your hip sockets. Your tail is pretty much over your heels. We don't want them too far back. We obviously don't want it too far up. From there, just rock from toe to heel. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna start to establish what a toe feels like, what a heel feels like, and then you can find that balance point between the two. From there, now you can work on your backswing. I have to stress though, again, there are a lot of cause and effects that create a club that goes too far from the inside. This is just one potential. Try it out. Let me know if it works.